What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabra.
What's going on, everybody? Kevin Valentin here, the other half of the podcast. How what we got going on today, bro?
All right, so we got some MVP talk. So now that we're going into the second half of the NBA season, now that the All-Star festivities have come to a close, this is really the time where we're going to see some top flight players really try to make a push for MVP this season. We've got some great players to go over, really depending on which source you use for who you think is at the top of the MVP ladder. What it pretty much comes down to is the top three is going to consist of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, and Joel Embiid. All of these three players have been playing phenomenal this year. With Giannis already have won two MVPs in the past. Jokic won MVP last year, and Embiid is trying to get his first one if he's successful this year. Now, Kevin, to take this one to you, with Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid leading the way in MVP votes this year, or really at the top of the MVP ladder, who do you think is going to win MVP when it's all said and done this year?
To be completely honest, it is a close race. I know a lot of people say that it isn't, but if you really look at it and you break it down and look at their stats, their PER, their plus minus, their win shares, all of these statistics, they're very, very close within the three. So if I have to give my selection and my choice, it has to be Nikola Jokic. I mean, the man is having an absolutely phenomenal season once again, close to repeating his success of last year, almost identically in terms of points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, just to kind of go over it briefly, the man is averaging 26 points, 13.8 rebounds, essentially 14, and then 7.9 assists, essentially 8. So we're looking at 26, 14, and 8 for a designated five position player sitting in the sixth seed of the West with basically no help whatsoever. Jamal Murray's not playing. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr. is not playing. And the second best player realistically has been Aaron Gordon, who we know can't really function or lead an offense alone. So when you think of most valuable player, when you think of the person that makes a team, you look at Denver and you say, without Nikola, they don't have an option. They don't have an offense. I mean, quite frankly, they don't really have a defense either. I mean, the man's averaging almost a steal and a half per game and almost a block. So what he brings to the table, what he does for this team in almost every single statistical category is unheard of for someone of his position. You would expect this from a LeBron James. You would expect this from a Luka Doncic, somebody of the magnitude of averaging a triple double, or players that have the potential like Russell Westbrook did. But most valuable player would have to be Nikola, because the other two players have significant role players on the team that have been proven to carry a team when the other has been out. In Milwaukee, Giannis has Chris Middleton. Giannis has Drew Holiday. Obviously, in Philadelphia, now James Harden has been there. Now you also include Tobias Harris. You have Danny Green, the veteran presence. Not that he can lead an offense, but they have reliable people. Matisse Thybulle has emerged as an elite defender, as well as a good, consistent three-point shooter, and so on and so forth. So you just look at Nikola, you have Will Barton, Monty Williams, you have Jeff Green, who's been in the league for just as long as Kevin Durant has, and obviously is nowhere near that same level of intensity or offensive efficiency. And then, of course, Aaron Gordon, like I had stated. So if anything, that definitely proves clear, without a doubt, Nikola Jokic should win back-to-back Kia MVPs.
Kevin, I'm with you 100%, and I've really tried to find different reasons to possibly pick Giannis or Embiid over Jokic, but I just can't find it. And I'm not even a Denver Nuggets fan, but to me, the choice is obvious. It's clearly Nikola Jokic. And really to focus on this point, this is kind of something that you mentioned with the rosters. You take away Jokic away from the Denver Nuggets, their starting lineup is going to consist of Aaron Gordon, Monte Morris, Bryn Forbes, and then maybe a couple different role players that you could probably pick off the bench. Kevin, I don't even think the Nuggets would make the playoffs with that lineup. Now, with Jokic there, that team is instantly a playoff team. Now, granted, I don't know if they're going to get that far, because if you look at last year, they got bounced out pretty quick by the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs last year. And I really do think, even if Jamal Murray was in the lineup, I know he's still recovering from his ACL injury for about a year and a half ago. maybe that would make the roster a little bit better, but to me, Jokic is the guy that keeps that team relevant. And it's like the point that you made. If you were to take Giannis away from the Bucks would still probably be a playoff team. If you take Embiid away from the 76ers, I would still think they have a shot to be a playoff team, but they're really hindered without Embiid's success. But to me, Jokic is really the reason that Denver's relevant, and the fact that they also don't have Jamal Murray there as well. I mean, when you look at Jokic this year, every statistical category, he is dominating this year. The guy is averaging 26 points, damn near 14 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. Now, both Embiid and Giannis average more in points, but where Jokic kind of makes up the ground is really in the analytics. And granted, I don't really focus too much on the analytics, but the analytics here really favor Jokic over Giannis and Embiid because Jokic's plus minus is more than Embiid and Giannis. His PER is higher than Giannis and Embiid. And when you look at their overall win shares, it's clearly in favor of Jokic over those other two. I think that both Giannis and Embiid are having phenomenal years. And really, when you look at this resurgence of the 5 spot or the big man in the NBA, it is these 3 players, Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, that are carrying the torch. And they're doing an amazing job. This is really kind of culminating in great success for all of them because, I mean, a couple years ago, it'd be like LeBron, D Rose, Russell Westbrook, all of these players who are a little bit smaller in stature would be winning MVPs, but really the dominance of the big man has returned, and it's proving to be so valuable for these teams moving forward. These are difference makers, and they're going to make a difference not only just in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. And really, like the last point that I have with Jokic is that when I look at Jokic compared to Giannis and Embiid, the way that he's able to distribute the basketball, I have never seen a big man be able to do it so effectively. I mean, he was the guy that is passing the ball to role players who are knocking down game-winning shots. Jokic is going out there and averaging over 30 points a game sometimes and putting up 15-plus rebounds and damn near 10 assists per game. I mean, Giannis and Embiid can both do that. It's just that Jokic is just a little bit more consistent on the rebounding aspect, and his assists are higher than both Giannis and Embiid. So, to me, Jokic is the full package. That's not to discredit Giannis and Embiid for what they've done. It's just, when it's all said and done, Jokic has a better year statistically as far as the analytics go. And I think when you take Jokic away from the lineup that Denver currently has, that team might be a lottery team with the current roster that they have assembled. So to me, it's a clear-cut choice. I would say Jokic is number 1. And then really it's kind of a toss-up on who you want between 2 and 3, between Giannis and Embiid. But to me, Jokic is number 1, and it's pretty set in stone for me.